Ryo finally reaches his homeland of Yagumo, where he finds an entire population with black hair just like his. He cannot help but feel emotional as he remembers how his mother had promised that they would return here together before she was brutally murdered. Two girls by the name of Ruri and Seo volunteer to lead him to the leader of the village so that he could finally get some answers of his heritage. The head is an elderly lady by the name of Yuba, who stares closely at the newcomer. Ryo explains his intentions and asks her if she knew his parents, to which Yuba gestures to Ruri and Seo to leave the room, and she reveals that she is his grandmother. Our MC is shocked and is further rendered speechless when the old lady explains that his parents had left the village on a top-secret mission, the details of which she cannot reveal. Ever since that fateful day when her son and his wife said their final goodbyes, her only remaining kin has been Ruri, who is Ryo's cousin. The boy then follows Yuba, who leads him to the location of his parents' graves. They had been dug up when the couple left the village since Yuba knew it was unlikely that they would return. Ouch, that's harsh. What type of mother just assumes that their son would die on a mission? Ryo falls to his knees in prayer and is visibly emotional at finally finding this very first sign of his parents' existence. Yuba suggests that our hero should stay in the village until more information about his parents comes up, since a newcomer would be like a breath of fresh air for the villagers. Since the old woman has not revealed that Ryo is her grandson yet, the boy is welcomed to her house as a guest. Not wanting to be a burden, he starts doing chores from the very first day, demonstrating his spirit arts to prepare soup for everyone. Soon enough, the entire village has become his fan, except for Seo's brother Shin, who views the boy with jealousy. Having been outshone by Ryo while hunting, he cannot bear to see how all the girls in the village are crushing over him, particularly when our MC manages to build a whole-ass bathhouse. How do you compete against that? Man got all the bitches purely by making a sauna. Crazy Riz. Since Yagumo's main source of food and finance are their crops, the majority of the villagers spend day and night in the fields. Ryo also contributes to the agricultural work, which is where Yuba finds him one day. She informs him that after all the rations and tax have been separated, the remaining rice sacks are sold in the capital, and that it would be a great help if he could guard them on their journey. Our MC is happy to comply. Their conversation is interrupted by commotion in the village. Apparently, a noble from the neighboring village named Gon is harassing Ruri and Seo. Shin tries to protect them, but is attacked by the huge bully, and things might have escalated had Yuba not intervened. Gon explains that his carriage has been damaged while traveling and he needs to stay in the village for a few days while it is repaired. Since he is a noble, Yuba cannot refuse, but she warns her granddaughter to be careful. Ryo is on high alert by this time, and rightly so, as the brute tries to sneak into Ruri's bedroom the next night and harass her. Our MC is suddenly blinded by rage as he throws Gon on the ground and unleashes strike after strike on the man's face. It would have been Gon's funeral if Ryo was not stopped by the villagers. Fortunately, the TG is reported to the authorities and is jailed. Between you and me, it would have been better if he died. But you win some, you lose some. The time finally arrives for Gon and his group of goons to be taken to the neighboring village. Ryo volunteers to look after them on the way, in case they try to break free. He is accompanied by the tax collector, Hayed, who had also played a role in the capture of Gon. Before leaving, Yuba hands Hayed a letter and asks him to give it to his father, Gauki, with special emphasis on its importance. The group eventually reach the capital, where Gon and his henchmen are first taken to jail. Shin still thinks that they got off lightly, and honestly, I agree with the man. Send that bastard straight to the electric chair and crank it up to its complete power. I want to see him burn to a crisp. A local delicacy of the area is kamitan, which is a type of ramen. Ryo has never tried it in his life, and a single bite makes him realize how much he is missing out on. After dinner, Shin has a light conversation with the boy, and it is clear that there are no hard feelings between the two anymore. Something about watching your sister getting saved by the dude you hate does that to a guy. The next day, together with Seo, Ryo goes out to the marketplace for some shopping. The girl is surprised that our MC chose to bring her along, particularly since it may look to the public as if they are a couple. Seo has been harboring a crush on Ryo for quite some time, and her feelings are not helped by the fact that the boy seems to be the sweetest person in the world. He buys her a hairpin which adds to her beauty, and even the saleswoman whispers in her ear to commit Ryo before another girl whisks him away. On the way back home, our hero stops another crime from taking place. A guy is attempting to kidnap a young girl, and just when it appears that he would get away with it, Ryo steps in and rescues the damsel in distress. Turns out that she is the daughter of a noble of the village. But since Ryo does not wish to attract attention to himself, he grabs Seo and disappears in the crowd. The next day, our protagonist is summoned to the house of a noble, who happens to be the father of the tax collector, named Gauki. He had received the letter from Yuba and instantly wished to arrange a meeting with the boy. Gauki reveals that Ryo's mother, Ayame, had been born in a royal household and he had been chosen as her attendant. This huge info bomb shocks the boy, but there is more. His father, Zen, had also been an acquaintance of Gauki's, and he had been in charge of Ayame's protection when she was a girl, which is when they fell in love. However, there was no happy ending for them as a prince wished for Ayame's hand in marriage, and when he saw this was not possible, he called for Zen's execution, or there would be dire consequences. So for the betterment of the village, the couple escaped. The story is then continued by Ryo himself in front of his mother's parents, the rulers of the village. He reveals that his father had died very early, which is why he does not recall any details. However, his mother had been slaughtered right before his very eyes by an acquaintance of his father's, a psychopath by the name of Zen. After this huge trauma-dumping session, our hero has a sword fight with Gauki, who is presumed to be the best fighter in the surrounding areas. Surprisingly, our MC defeats him quite easily, before he then returns back to Yagumo. Upon returning to Yagumo, his first meeting is with Yuba and Ruri. He has decided that it is now the right time to reveal his true heritage to the girl and the fact that they are both cousins. At first Ruri is astounded, thinking that the other two are playing a prank on her. But when she realizes that they are dead serious, she falls to the ground and bows to Ryo, referring to him with the title of Lord. "I have such a sexual joke right now, but I won't make it or I'll get cancelled." Obviously, all this formality triggers Ryo's introvertedness as he requests the girl to go back to her old teasing ways. In return, he is forced to refer to her purely by her name as well. Our MC drops another bombshell then. He announces that he would be leaving the village by that time next year, straight after the Harvest Festival. It is clear that Yuba does not wish to let go of her grandson just yet, but accepts that it is part of his mission and so does not hold him back. Meanwhile, all the girls of the village are annoyed when they see that Ryo is referring to Ruri by her first name, and they appear to be overly friendly. Seo observes everything from a corner and wonders when she would manage to gather the courage to finally confess her feelings to the boy. How does this man manage to get into a situationship in every village he goes? Please teach me your ways, sensei. Normal farm life resumes as most of the villagers now use spirit art techniques that were taught to them by Ryo to enhance their cultivation. Among them is Seo, who is trying desperately to use her abilities to control the water flow. Ryo notices this and walks over to help her out, while also informing her that he would soon be leaving the village. Seo looks like life has been drained out of her body and attempting to keep a straight face. She excuses herself and returns back home where she breaks down in tears. Shin walks in and noticing the tears in her sister's eyes, he immediately assumes that Ryo has hurt her and is about to walk out and unleash his anger on him when Seo stops him and explains that it is the exact opposite. Shin then rushes to Yuba's house and falls to the ground, begging Ryo to not leave the village. However, before he can embarrass himself any further, Seo arrives and pulls him away with a million apologies. Time flies by and eventually the day of the Harvest Festival arrives. Everyone is in a jubilant mood, enjoying the event to its absolute limit. Particularly Gauki, who now has an opportunity to wrestle someone in broad daylight as entertainment. Seo spots an opportunity and leads Ryo to the forest where she confesses her feelings for him. Unfortunately for the girl, Ryo explains that he does not feel the same way, particularly since he will be leaving the village soon. Seo gives it another try, saying that she has trained hard enough for the last few months to accompany him on his travels, but it is clear that our MC's mind has been made up. Ouch, F in the chats for our fallen soldier Solidarus. Later that night, our hero gives his final goodbyes to Yuba and Ruri, vowing to be back soon. It seems as if Seo is too hurt to show up, but this assumption is proved wrong as the love-struck lady is waiting for Ryo at the exit gate. She promises to become stronger while he is gone, so that next time they could go adventuring together. Some girls just don't know how to deal with rejection. Our hero's next stop is the demi-human village where Latifa is overjoyed at finally seeing her brother once again. However, he reveals that his stay would be a short one. The next morning, the girls of his house are in for a rude surprise when they enter Ryo's room. Their innocent eyes meet the sight of a pink-haired lady who has wrapped herself around the boy on his bed, clothed by nothing except a sheet. The girls are speechless, but what is more alarming is the fact that our MC is just as surprised as them. Bro is living the dream. Why is he surprised? Every teenage boy has had a wet dream like this, at least once, let's be honest. Rio explains that the girl had magically appeared out of nowhere when he woke up and has not spoken a single word yet. She eventually opens her eyes and reveals that she is the spirit that the boy has made a bond with. Lady Dryas had mentioned her a long time back and how she was sleeping inside Rio. Apparently, she decided to just wake up one day and magically appear into the boy's life. God, I am once again asking, when will it be my turn? Although the girl does not remember her own name, she refers to Rio as Haruto, which surprises the watching audience since they never knew the boy had an alias. Clearly, the spirit is a high-level one as she is able to communicate with our hero telepathically, and she is also the reason the boy was able to use the spirit arts without any training. She suddenly starts glowing and clothes herself in a gorgeous dress that makes even Rio start to blush. Due to her pink hair and fresh aura, the boy gives her the name of Asia, which translates to warm springtime in the native language. I would have called her Summer because she's hot, but that's just my opinion. Rio takes Asia to the Council of the Elders where he explains her origin. Their discussion is interrupted by the appearance of Lady Dryas, who had sensed the presence of a powerful spirit within the bounds of the village. She asks Asia which spirit element the girl uses, to which the newcomer replies that she is proficient in all of them. Everyone present in the room is stunned as this has been unheard of, even for spirits. To test the true extent of Asia's abilities, she is then challenged by none other than Rio, since the villagers are well aware of his strength, having watched him slaughter a wyvern single-handedly. The battle is a true fight for the ages as both of the opponents are equally matched. It seems as if Asia has memorized all of the boy's moves, blocking each strike with effortless ease. She then counters with an array of icicles which Rio has to burn. Realizing that he would have to power up if he wishes to defeat the girl, he manages to conjure up a tornado of extreme velocity. Asia does the same, but before the two disasters can strike against each other, the battle is called to an end, to avoid any damage being done to the village. Since a few months have elapsed since his arrival, Rio announces that it is about time that he leaves once again. Noticing that Latifa seems heartbroken by this news, he plans to talk to her separately. However, the young girl shows up suddenly while he is in the bathhouse and volunteers to massage his back. A weird request for someone you call your brother. I don't even want to know what type of freaky shit Latifa is on. Rio's next destination after the village is none other than Beltrum, where he is intent on finding Celia. He is in for some tragic news, though, as he soon finds out that she is about to marry none other than Charles Arbor, the shit-stained guard who had beaten him to a pulp when he was just a boy. After infiltrating the Beltrum Royal Academy, Rio places a spell on one of the teachers who reveals that Celia is about to get married to Charles Arbor. Apparently, the Kingdom of Beltrum suffered a crushing defeat to the Proxia Empire, causing panic among the citizens. To make matters worse, the Duke of Huguenot suddenly escaped with none other than Princess Flora, further adding salt to the wounds of the royal family. During this time, the House of Arbor stood up and began negotiations on behalf of the kingdom, thus attracting lots of support from the population. Once the situation calmed down, the House of Arbor was now much stronger than before, and Charles Arbor, one of its corrupt nobles, demanded that Celia should become his wife. To maintain peace throughout the kingdom, the young girl agreed. Rio appears to be devastated as he processes all this information. He had always harbored a soft spot for his teacher, and imagining her in such a difficult position fills him with despair. He decides to meet her face to face so that he could understand her side of the story. He finds out that she is staying at the royal palace, and together with Asia, he plans to sneak in. Meanwhile, Celia and her father are having dinner with Charles, who is as pompous and shrewd as ever. It is clear that the noble is giving indirect threats to his fiancée's father, accusing him of communicating with traitors and being disloyal to the kingdom. By now, the atmosphere in the dining room has become quite awkward, and it is clear that this marriage is being done out of necessity and not because there is even an ounce of love involved. After dinner, the girl returns back to her room and stares longingly at the letter Rio had sent her 4 years ago. There has been no word from him since that day, and it breaks her heart every time she sees the letter. With this new chapter of her life about to begin, she decides to let go of the old one and is about to burn the letter, when suddenly a hooded individual enters her room. At first, she is scared, but when Rio takes off his hood and smiles, she runs towards him, immediately embracing him with a bear hug. It is clear that she has missed him to death. But when he starts asking her about the wedding, she suddenly closes up. Our MC tries to push the matter, asking her if she really wishes to marry Charles, to which the girl asks him to leave immediately or she would scream. Once he is gone, she breaks down into tears. The day of the wedding finally arrives. It is planned to be a huge occasion, with the citizens also gathering to watch the wedding procession travel to the palace. Charles has also invited Sir Rhys, the sorcerer responsible for the wyvern attacks in the demi-human village. He then interrupts Celia while she is getting ready to introduce her to the rest of his 7 wives. When he is gone, the eldest among them reminds the girl that she would be at the bottom of the hierarchy now and do what she is told without any complaint. What a bit. However, Celia has locked away all of her emotions and is intent that nothing would affect her. This is proved to be false, as the tears flow freely from her eyes when she notices Rio in the crowd while she is in a carriage next to Charles Arbor. The man notices that Celia is crying, but assumes that it is because she is overjoyed. Rio disappears, much to Celia's dismay. The carriage eventually reaches the altar, where Charles extends a hand to help his wife to get off. But before their hands can make contact, there is a huge commotion in the crowd, triggering the tight security. Rio breaks through the mob in an attempt to stop this ill-fated wedding. The guards immediately swarm towards the rushing figure of Rio in an attempt to stop him. But to no avail, as Armek is way too strong, swatting them away like tiny bugs. The nobles begin to panic, but Charles Arbor is as cocky as always, assuring Celia that his special guards would knock the assailant out. The guards use spells to enhance their strength, but even then they are no match for Rio. He knocks them out and steps onto the carriage, where he kicks Charles to the floor and places a foot on the bastard's back. Most satisfying moment in the entire anime. Our MC then stands behind Celia and places a dagger to her throat while keeping his eyes firmly placed on the crowd in front of him. Through telepathy, he assures the girl that he would not hurt her, and this is all a ruse to save her from an unhappy marriage. The girl does not know how to react and is stuck in 2 minds: either choose her own happiness and run away with Rio, or prioritize the good of the kingdom. Taking one look at the boy, she recalls how strong her feelings are for him and how he would take care of her, no matter what. Moreover, he also assures her that he would pretend to kidnap her so that none of the blame falls on her father. Celia informs Rio that she is ready to go with him, and in a single moment, he picks her up in his arms and begins running through the crowd. The guards try to stop him once again, but he is way too fast and outpaces them easily. He blocks all of the enchantments thrown at him. Sir Rhys is observing him closely and suddenly recognizes Rio from the time the boy had taken down the wyvern. Wishing to test how strong the boy is now, he summons a huge energy ball of his own, which he launches at our MC, but it does not cause a single scratch on the boy, much to Sir Rhys' surprise. Rio then escapes the royal grounds, with an entire flock of griffins behind him. Charles takes out his anger on Albert, the head of the soldiers, blaming him for the loose security. Albert is clearly pissed, but rather than retort, he rallies his troops and gives them instructions to not let Rio out of their sight. Despite his speed, Rio is well aware that it would be practically impossible to shake off the griffins from his trail while he is carrying Celia. So he summons Asia and hands the girl over, vowing to meet up with her at a different location. He then returns back to the kingdom, where all of the guards surround him. This time, however, Albert has decided to take matters in his own hands. Known by the title of King's Sword, the man is probably the only one in the city who can give competition to our hero. It is clear that Rio is adopting a defensive approach, simply blocking strikes thrown at him by Albert. This pisses off the swordsman, as he assumes that the boy is mocking him. He powers up his sword and sends an energy-filled thunderbolt in the direction of our protagonist, which would have reduced anyone else to mere ash. However, Rio dodged the attack and took his opportunity to escape. Outside of the kingdom, he meets up with Celia, who is overjoyed to see him safe and sound. Stuck to him like glue, she explains that they need to catch up on all of the years they were apart. Unfortunately for her, their conversation is interrupted by the appearance of numerous huge energy blasts from the ground. On Asia's command, he goes to explore it and finds none other than his childhood sweetheart, now all grown up.